think that the one thing I think has helped me be pretty successful is that your mindset really matters, right?
Mm,
Goodness follows goodness. And when
mhm.
you say this is good, more good comes and more good follows. And so, again, another thing that I'm not sure is written out for us anywhere or shared with us as people, that like your mindset does matter.
Mhm.
I think leaning into that has been really a big gift to me personally in the last couple of years.
Welcome to Landed Unscripted Career Stories, the podcast where you'll hear real, authentic career stories and journeys to help you land the job. My name is Jean Puh. I'm your host. I'm a talent acquisition consultant and career coach. In each episode, I'll bring on guests who have different industry experience to help inspire you, and we'll talk about the unfiltered truths to help you land the job. So let's get into this episode. So welcome everyone to Landed Unscripted Career Stories. Today I have my dear friend April to share her industry expertise. I met April through the thread last year, which was such a, no, that experience. I felt like our group was like meant to be and meant to come together.
I think so. I got to give them credit for pairing up a pretty great Fab Five.
Yes, yes. We call ourselves the Fab Five. There's I guess three others in our cohort, but April, I wanted her to come on to my podcast, really to talk about becoming an industry expert. April gave me some really great advice last year, and I'm gonna have, you guys will hear more from her and how brilliant she is. And so, welcome to the show, April. I don't want to share all of your story because I'm so excited that you're here, but welcome to the show, and I'm so happy that you decided to join me today.
I am super honored to be asked to be a part of this. When you shared that you were going on this journey and doing this podcast, I was so excited for you because honestly, I think you have such a like bright light, and the way you shine and make people feel when they're around you is super exciting. So for me, this feels like a gift to be a part of this journey with you. And um, like I said when we got started, there's a little imposter syndrome, right? Being called an industry expert, and I think there's a lot of importance in debunking that theory, maybe for everybody else out there, or trying to stand in that vulnerability myself and pretend to be an expert.
Yes, but you are, and I love that. And I love how real that is because I feel like there's so many people who have great gifts and who lean into that. But I love the fact that you're out there just sharing your knowledge with the world. So let's kind of dig in. I'd love to know, like, how did you become a profit center manager, and what does that role entail?
Well, first, I think it's really important to like say first to get started that profit center manager is a very strange title. So I think that that might come with a lot of questions to people like, what does this woman actually do? So I work in the ag trading space. I work for a company that is pretty broad in its scope of what they do, and we trade all sorts of commodities in the ag space or energy sector. And the business that I get to be the profit center manager for is the container export business. So we buy grain and sell grain in its like simplest form, and then we move it to different destinations across the globe. So, profit center manager, there's two of us, myself and a colleague. We work together to run a group of, I think there's 13 on our team, and we are I believe in 2024, we were the 20th largest exporter from the United States in terms of containers. So a really big business. It's really cool. We export from, I think, 58 unique locations where we put grain into a box and we put it on a vessel and we send it overseas. So it's really exciting. It's incredibly challenging. And um, so that's what a profit center manager is. And I have had this role since 2022.
It's amazing. And when you break that down, I think we go to the grocery store and we're like, oh, bread, grain, like
Yeah.
flour. And we don't think about how it even got, like, how it even got there and like the process it probably took to make that happen.
I think it's even a broader scope, and I think when you look at the fact that we're exporting grain, so let's, like, dial it. I mean, we're here in Kansas City, so we're in a pretty, like, rural areas are very close to us, so the local farmers who are um, farming and make corn, soybeans, growing wheat. Our business touches a lot of that, but the only way in which we can send that for export is if there's imports coming in. So everything that we're buying, our clothing, and I know that there's a lot of noise probably in the space today that everybody's hearing, and it's probably a podcast for a different day, and I don't really want to spend a lot of time on that one. But I think about how global this business is, and I think for me, the most exciting part is getting to be a part of the supply chain that a lot of people don't think about how they get there. And so our grain is generally going for crush or feed or oil production. Some of it's going to make tofu. So there's a lot of exciting things that our product is doing and essentially feeding the world, but also being a part of that supply chain. So connecting the U.S. farmer to a global landscape is pretty exciting.
That is incredible. Did you always did you know you wanted to be in the ag trade industry, or
No.
how did you find this path?
It was a very windy path, to be very frank. I grew up in a rural community in North Iowa, super small town where combines drove past my house that was on Main Street on a regular basis. So I think leaving that small town, I really had no interest in being in the egg space. I had kind of grown up around it, and my journey that I thought I was going to take was be in the sports industry from like a public relations or marketing perspective. And at a very young age, I found out that that was a lot of nights and weekends, and I wasn't super interested in that. So I found a gig out of college working for DHL in the logistics space, and I loved logistics, and I loved being a problem solver and super fast paced, and no day was ever the same. So that's kind of how it all started, was just being in logistics and really loving and growing my path pretty quickly in that space. And then 20 I think 13 is when I started at the company I'm currently with, and that was my second job in the egg space. But once I got to, it was Lansing Trade Group, it's now the Andersons. Once I landed there, I was like smitten. I knew that was kind of it for me, and so yeah.
And that connection, I think sometimes I feel like with everyone's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then something kind of close to home feels a bit familiar.
Yeah.
And and sometimes it's like, okay, you're kind of destined to do this, you're, but in a different way. It's like you probably didn't want to be a farmer or drive the combines, but you're like, I can talk the talk. I know what you guys are going through, and let me help you with my strategic strengths. I love that.
I mean, you nailed it. It's really fun to go home now and get to talk to family, friends, and have a little bit of a conversation with them that I never thought I could have from a business side. So absolutely, it feels a little bit like destiny, but also pretty chosen in the end. I think there were times when I could have veered towards a different industry, and this one, when I got into it, I knew there was no turning back.
I love it. Let's say someone would like to get into this industry. What are some skills that they should have or experience to kind of get into the ag trading industry?
I think first I would ask them or share with them to define what part of it they want to be in, because I think it's so broad. There's the trading side, there's the logistics side, there's the back end side where you can be on the back of the house with the contracting or the risk management. So there's so many pieces, and you can get involved in it, and I think in a number of ways. And I think defining which part of that feels most important to me. My background of all of it is the logistics and the freight side of the puzzle. So, for anybody out there who's seen Captain Phillips or heard of, the Evergreen vessel being stuck in the Suez Canal, those are the containers that are on the vessel, and that's the freight that I get to like buy and negotiate. So, for me, I fell in love with that part of the business. It wasn't so much the trading, buying grain off the farm or from co-ops and selling it overseas. I have a colleague who's incredible at that. I was really more so on the relationship and the logistics and problem solving side of the puzzle, and the freight side. So I think first it's really define which part of the industry you want to be in. But there's an overarching theme, I think, in the whole space, and that's really problem solving. And so if you want to come in every day and kind of know exactly what your day is going to look like, this isn't the space for you. But if you're super interested in massive change, every day being a little different from the day before, then this is a space that I would say that's a skill, and that's a skill that you like to go into. Um, one other one I would say is is a self-starter. I think not expecting for something to come to you or the day to be laid out for you, but for you being willing to take on tasks or see a problem and go solve it before somebody asks you, I think is like the best way for me to say that's the employee that I want on my team. Somebody who is willing to look at an email, take a phone call, and say, "I'm going to solve that before April even gets to it." Like that is the way to succeed and really make a name in this industry.
So all my type A people,
Yes,
if you never knew about the ag trading space and logistics,
go find it.
that go find that because it seems like those are qualities that maybe in other industries someone would be like, oh my gosh, they just hop in and do that, or they're kind of always looking at giving me solutions and they need to just follow the process.
Yes.
Whereas your space, you're like, no, if you can find the solution and find, like, go ahead and make that happen and make it happen quick.
Yeah. I think it's important to say that there's a type B, like if you're type B, there's a spot for you too. Like think about we have to clear documentation at destination or or customs clearance. So if you're really into details and you want to make sure every T is crossed and I is dotted, there's a really cool space for you too to have an international background and really prepare like the documentation or learn about compliance or risk. So there's a spot for both of them. But if you're kind of looking in this path of either the trade or the logistics side of it all, type A people, like if you want to go solve a problem and fix something, like you're going to be good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And this is, I go off
I
unscripted.
love
So
it.
I kind of just a thought. Um, so with your industry, would you say it's a pretty stable industry? Because there are layoffs going on all over the place, and tech is getting a huge hit, and I feel like it's trickling around. So, like, would you say the ag trading industry is fairly consistent?
I think that's a really hard question to answer, and I don't want to say that it's impervious to outside challenges that we're facing, but I think that there is always going to be a space in the ag world, and I can't say that for every company that there's not layoffs because there is. I mean, we've seen some of that in the recent news, so it is happening, but it does feel pretty stable.
Yeah.
Um, current things in the life in the world happening aside,
Mhm.
um, there's always going to be a place in the industry, I think. And even if you take it a step further, the supply chain, right? So a bit of our business is not only the ag trade, it's the supply chain part of the puzzle. So if you get
Mhm.
involved in that, I think that there's always going to be a space and you're going to maybe be subject to layoffs with whatever the company is, and that's
Mhm.
a given. But I do think it's incredibly stable. We're always going to have to get products from A to B, no matter if we're an importer or an exporter. And so it does feel pretty stable if it's a place where you kind of become that expert or
Mhm.
demonstrate the value that you have.
Love that. Because America has to eat.
We gotta eat.
Like,
Oh, and we got to feed the world too. We have a lot of grain. It's got to go somewhere.
yes, yes. Love that. So, kind of taking a little bit of a pivot. You've been in the industry. Did you say how many years again?
I mean, total between both companies, about 15 in this specific
15.
industry. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you've made a name for yourself. I know you said you've gone through imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
but y'all, April sits on boards. She sits on a board. She's been a panel speaker. She's known in her industry for what she's done, and she's done it so well. So what what advice would you give, and what steps should someone take to become, to establish a really strong brand in their industry?
Um, I think my biggest piece of advice that was given to me, or something that was actually shared with me that allowed me to understand maybe that brand was a couple years ago, a dear friend in the business that I met because of what I get to do. He had said to me, one of the things that he does is when he meets people, and he's incredibly high level in this space. And he said when he meets people, he likes to decide what their superpower is, right? Like when they are leaders or a thought thinker or a thought leader in the space, it is, I want to understand what their superpower is. And so he shared with me what he thought my superpower was. And once I learned that, I think it really helped me lean into that industry brand a little bit more because I understood it a little bit more. When somebody tells you something about yourself, I think you're more inclined to believe it than when you decide for your own self. So he shared that relationships were my superpower, that building strong relationships with vendors and customers and people was my superpower. And I didn't even I thoroughly believed him in that moment when I was able to step back and look at what I enjoyed the most about what I do. For me, it's picking up a phone and having somebody answer on the other end and say, I want to help you. And all that
Mhm.
comes from developing vulnerable or being vulnerable with them, sharing your problems, but also wanting to fix their problems. And so I think the most important advice can share would be to understand what your superpower is. And you might be a great problem solver. You might be um, really into compliance or tech or whatever that is, whatever that piece is that like lights your soul on fire when you're at work every day. And it might not be looking at an Excel sheet for my brother. It is. He's developed an entire business around simplifying your business with giving you time back by Excel spreadsheet formulas and stuff. I don't
Yeah.
get it. It's not for me, but that's his and that's his brand. And so for me, it really has been the people matter and the people on my team matter the most to me and how they show up to work. And so building confidence or taking away problems from them, but also externally. So I think the brands that I've created, if we're gonna say that, has been a relationship builder, and I want to nurture those every single day. So to anybody else out there trying to create a brand, I think you have to think really long and hard what that brand is and what you want it to be. And don't be afraid to ask people that you trust around you what they think your brand is.
I love that's incredible. And kudos to that leader.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a difference between a manager and a leader, and a leader truly sees the strengths in their people and will like empower them to do
Agreed.
great work. And so that belief in itself is phenomenal. And it sounds like you now lead your team with that same kind of a belief and empowerment. So
I hope
that's
so.
so cool.
I hope so.
So you've moved up within your company. I guess we talked about the relationships are what really help to secure those connections.
Mhm.
Were there any other skills that you kind of did or strategic moves you made within your career that helped you move up within your company?
I wish I could say it was strategic. I think all along we work in a pretty flat kind of leadership company. There's not a lot of layers. I always knew that I wanted the autonomy to get to do what I thought was most exciting. And so the company as a whole is really structured to give a lot of autonomy to people. So I've loved working where I work and I love the opportunities that I get, but I knew the autonomy was important to me. And I really don't know that I sought leadership. I think um
Mm,
sometimes it finds you, and I didn't know that I was ready when the opportunity knocked, and there was a lot of faith and confidence put in me from some of the leaders. But I think one thing that I can say if it was strategic was the willingness to be uncomfortable. And
mm, cool.
I think saying get comfortable with being uncomfortable if
Yep.
you want to be a leader and you want leadership roles or you want to progress within your company or take the next step, there is there is no next step if you're unwilling to be comfortable. If you're unwilling to be uncomfortable, I mean, I think not knowing things is what makes a good leader and the willingness to go find the answer and chase it and willing to be wrong and say you're wrong. So for me, I was pretty okay with being uncomfortable. I think being a problem solver, that's really what your background is like looking at something that you don't know how to fix and finding a way to fix it. And that's really always been my identity, looking at something or giving something or a task that feels kind of unknown and just going and solving it without being asked to. So for me,
Mm.
the definition of leadership is just getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Ooh, that's so good. So good. There's so many people who are so scared
Yes.
to like be uncomfortable and not know what to do or
Mhm.
step in uncomfortable like situations where they're not the expert. But just like that willingness
Yes.
to your point sets you apart because the leader goes first. And there's probably things that you've learned as a leader that you're like, man, I never knew I had to do this, but that ability to figure that out, that's amazing. I love that. Love that. Um, so so okay, so your brand has expanded outside of outside of your company. So what advice, would you give to people who want to position themselves as an industry expert outside of just like their day-to-day, everyday company? Because yeah, like I said, you've gone to conferences, you spoke on panels. Like, love to know how could someone do that?
I think it's probably one of the favorite parts of my job, and probably the favorite parts of the company that I work for that allows me to do that. The external facing and the brand that we've got to create has really just been my team is really successful and strong, I think, and getting to share that brand with people and talk about it is really exciting to me. But I think, like I said before, if you're trying to build a brand outside of your internal organization, it is define it, right? Define who you want to be or what you want that to look like. Chase it. But secondly, find a mentor, find a sponsor, find somebody else out there and be really intentional about what it is that you're seeking. Hey, I'm really looking to speak on panels and you have before. What's the connection? Or find maybe a conference or an event that is held annually. Reach out to that organization or whatever it is and say, hey, I think that I'm really good at this space. Or I think in the future you could talk about this topic and position yourself really intentionally in a space that matters to you. But I look at this as trying to like define and solve a problem for somebody else adds value. So if it's at an event where you think that you might have value, define that to somebody and share that. So for me, it was really defining it, chasing it, and then finding people who would support me along the way. And I don't think, and I really think it's important to do that with sincerity and not just finding something and being like, oh, I can leverage this into a bigger relationship and it'll be a stepping stone. I think that comes across as fake and I would avoid that at all costs. So for me, it really is the definition of find your sponsor, know who you want to be,
Yeah.
and then be pretty loud about it too. Be willing to share with it on LinkedIn. Be willing to be up on a panel or speak at an event or attend the events and be very present.
That something you said is define it. I think that's the first thing. I think a lot of people are waiting for an opportunity
Yes,
to
stop
talk.
waiting.
Exactly. Like you gotta.
It's not gonna come. Right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I love that. My mom, when I turned 18, I was like so nervous. It's like, where do I go? What do I do? What do I do? And she wasn't helping me. And she's like, this is your life. And once she said that, it was just kind of like an aha moment, like, oh yeah, this is my life. And I'm not just going through the motions. Like,
No.
and it scared me, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, you got to define and create your moments and what you want out of life. I love that.
Somebody shared something with me many years ago, and it was the day before my first board meeting on this really exciting organization that I've been a part of since 2019, I think. I was very nervous. As a friend of the industry, and we were having dinner the night before the event, and I shared with him that I was nervous to be in this room with like giants of the industry to me. I couldn't believe that I was gonna get to be a part of this organization and this opportunity, and I shared with him that fear of what do I have to say in that room? And he was so quick with his reply, and I mean, this is now what, 5 years late almost 6 years later that it has stuck with me, and it's the thing that plays in my head before any, big event or whenever those nerves come in, and he said, "People are waiting to hear what you have to say. Speak
Ooh,
up, speak first, and speak often." And those words have never left my side, and and I think I did it at the thread as well, right? That was intimidating to me, a group of successful women. As a woman who generally spends most of her time in groups of successful men, being around women was kind of intimidating that first day, and I had to say to myself, speak up, speak first, speak often, and just go find somebody. And so I think if you can tell yourself people are waiting to hear what you have to say, it's your duty if you want to be an expert or a leader to really position yourself that way and share yourself with somebody. Otherwise, you kind of just end up in the background.
yes. The power of
Oh
affirmations.
gosh.
Literally, like some people I feel like laugh at affirmations, but what you say to yourself matters because
Mhm.
we're that loudest voice in our head. And it's like, are you feeding in garbage or are you like speaking life into you?
Mhm.
And I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Like leaned into that. That is so, so incredible.
5 years later, it's still there. Thanks, Matt.
Yes. I love that. I love that. So, for an aspiring leader, what
Mhm.
are the most important things to focus on when you're an independent contributor, just positioning yourself as a leader?
I think, you know, and this might answer a couple of questions that we've talked about, but one of them is, and I think really important is, what's your North Star, right? And this advice was shared with me once upon a time. You can't be everything to everybody. So I
Yeah,
think when you're trying to be all the things and there's all these events that happen or all these problems that you're trying to solve or opportunities that you want to chase, you really can't be everything to everybody and you can't be the expert in every area. So
yeah.
when you want to like position yourself or have that opportunity or take that next step, really what is your North Star and how do you get there? And I think when you go out and you say, like, this is the problem I believe that I can add value in,
Yeah.
it positions you in a whole different place instead of, "Oh gosh, April could help us trade truck corn in Iowa." I can't. I mean, that's not my strength, but I
Mm-hmm.
can help you get, um, ocean freight from Norfolk, Virginia to Penang, Malaysia. Like that's something that I can do. So I think when you really define what your North Star is and where you want to grow, and for me, it was I wanted to be the first person that the company went to for ocean freight problems, whether it was loading it, whether it was starting something new. It was really important for me to know that like I wanted to be that expert and I wanted to be that person that they chased or had the opportunity to be a part of it. And so just like being really intentional about, what it is that you're going after, I think is the best advice I could give.
That's, yeah, like finding that opportunity, like the sliver within, like, this is what I can do. That is so good because you do have to be known. Like, that goes back to your brand.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm known for this
Yep.
and I like it and I can excel there. So, finding out problems, be solution minded. That's so good. And it's also like taking your thoughts away from yourself. You said
Yes.
earlier like, oh, this is kind of a stepping stone for this next thing. People can feel that. But when you're just providing a true solution and almost being a servant leader in that
Mhm.
like opportunities just come to you. And that's such great advice.
That's well said. Servant leader. I like that. And I think when you do it out of a place of like genuine desire to solve, I mean, not all problems I want to solve, don't get me wrong, but um,
Yeah.
I do, I do want to be like the first thought people think of when they think of like my specific part of the puzzle. So I think for anybody who's out there, whatever it is that you're doing, data analytics or whatever that is, being the thought leader, the genuine person who's like willing to put, um, their ego aside sometimes to be that solver generally lifts you up because people see you as the go-to, the resource, and generally good things follow.
And what are some of the key leadership lessons you've learned throughout your career?
Ooh. The willingness to listen and not just talk and solve a problem. And I've talked a lot about problem solving, and I think it gets you so far. But I think to be a really good leader, you have to have the ability to just stop and listen. And not my greatest strength and something that I actively work on, but I found that to be the one of the biggest pieces is just hearing people, whether it be a customer or a vendor, or also the team that I get the opportunity to work with every day. It's I think when you can just hear what they're having to say, and sometimes they just need to say it.
Yeah.
Um, but and I think also leading by example, and there's nothing I find more enjoyable than rolling up my sleeves and digging into a problem alongside somebody. But I think the hardest part from some of those people on your team that you're leading is seeing that you're willing to solve that problem. And so I think when you lead from a service mind or from a I want to be a part of this in the trenches with you, and that's not always an opportunity, but I think knowing that you're capable and able to do that really feels important.
With that. I love that. So let's dig into work-life
Mm.
balance because, and you may not have balance, but it seems like if you see April's IG, April is like going all over the world at wineries, like just living it up. So, what are some? exciting kind of experiences that you've had in result to the hard work you've put into your career.
I think had you asked me 3 years ago, work by life balance was not a thing, and I didn't know how to talk about that, and I would say that that's not a thing. But I would I would say that I think I've found it, and I think I've found a really good space, and right, subject to change, right? New opportunities come around and I might not have it for a little bit. But I think there's a couple things that I feel important to maybe touch on, and I think one of them is I know that when I'm really busy and traveling a lot or work is kind of overwhelming, I know personally that I have to shut it down for a little bit. And that looks very different to a lot of people, but sometimes for me, it's a weekend at home, picking a book off the shelf, making a really good cup of coffee, and just settling into like a little quiet time. And I know what that does for me. And sometimes it's a whole day and sometimes it's a whole weekend. But I know it recharges that battery. And I have to set a lot of boundaries. I have great friends and family who respect that. So I think that's really important to me. And I know that everybody can't do that. There's families and there's everything. But one thing I
Hmm.
started, I think in November, was this like Sunday afternoon decaf. And it's become a pretty big ritual for me. And I share with a lot of friends and they kind of laugh at me a little bit, but we've done it together. So now I know it's catching on. But find a pocket of time on that Sunday afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock. We all get, not all, but some people get that
Hmm.
Sunday scary, right? Before you go start your week. And so find that pocket of time, give yourself 1 hour, and maybe you're not a decaf coffee person, but maybe you're a put my phone in my house and leave it and go for an hour long walk. But for me, it has been no technology, no, like, it's just, like, 1 hour of time where I get to, like, reset and get actually pretty excited about the week ahead, the opportunities that lie in front of me. So, that's been one thing. Another thing I think that it's really has really helped me find that balance is I get to travel a lot. There is a lot of events and opportunities to travel for the board that I'm on and the facilities that we work with. And so I've been pretty intentional about spending personal time around those trips. And sometimes it's 1 day, sometimes it's 2 nights, but whatever space you can find in that travel and um, make those days really fun. Explore new restaurants. I like to go to thrift stores in some of the towns that I visit. Wineries is another one, and you mentioned that, but I think it's really cool. I go to Tacoma every single year for a conference, and everybody knows now that the weekend before the conference, April's at a winery. And now I invite my friends to join me the weekend before. So I just think you can make really good things come from being really busy or traveling, and it doesn't fit everybody's schedule. But I think
Hmm.
being really intentional about time and what
Yeah.
you know you need to show up every single week in a really good capacity. And for me, that has just been knowing that I need a little quiet time after things get really busy um, to show up as my best self. But a lot of that comes with really great opportunities. I'm in New York 4 to 6 times a year, and that city sets my soul on fire, truly. And that sounds kind of hokey to say, but I feel like my best version of myself when I'm there. So I always add on a day or two when able. Um, to kind of shine in that city. So
Mm.
yeah,
Oh, so cool. And that Sunday reset, to your point, Sunday scaries, they suck, man. Like they're just awful.
it's hard.
It's something to that, like, I feel like that's very authentic to
It
you,
is,
and
yeah.
which is amazing. I feel like people need to find that. It's like, what's
Yes.
authentic to me? Like, what can I look forward to?
Mhm.
It's like, oh no, Sunday's like it's my decaf day,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna make myself an amazing cup of coffee and just relax.
And I think it's
Love
important to like define the time, right? So everybody sort of knows that that's your time, like that belongs to you. So maybe it's 9 to 11 in the morning is your time. Maybe it's whatever that time is. But for me, it's that 4 to 6 period where it's like kind of like the day is over, your weekend's over. Um,
that.
you know, gosh, the weather's incredible. Well, not today, it's a little rainy, but the weather has been incredible. Sitting on the patio with a cup of coffee and a great book and just saying, "Hey, honey, you have the kids, right? For 1 hour. I need this for me because 'cause I'll be better for you." So I think that like, just jot it down, write it down, or think about it and try it for give yourself a month and see the changes that it makes, and it's made a huge difference. I truly look forward to Sunday at 4 o'clock,
Mm,
and around 3:30, I get texts from friends being like, "Hey, enjoy your decaf, girl." Like, it's a thing. So,
yes.
anyway,
Oh my gosh, I'm already sold. I'm like,
you do it.
yo, told my husband this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m., don't talk to
She
me.
kept
I'm
head.
gonna enjoy it.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Um, let's see here. Okay, you kind of talked about it. No, this has been so good. I feel I was gonna ask you that last question, but you talked about just like the work hard, play hard,
Yeah.
but like, adding some time
Mhm.
either before or after an event to just maximize on if you're traveling or whatever it may be. That's so great.
I think there's one thing that I would add to a little bit of that. And I think as somebody who's a leader or maybe manages a group of people, I think it's really important. And I don't always do the best job at this, but something I aspire to be better at is
Yeah.
making sure that the people who work with and for you also understand that personal time away is so
Mm,
important and never making them feel bad or guilty for taking that time off. Like I think coming
yes.
up into it and leading up to it, it's a really big opportunity to say, hey, this is an opportunity for somebody else in the team to support you. So um, I think that that's a place where I have an opportunity to grow as a leader and a manager, but something I also would share with other leaders and managers to lead by example, take time off, but also maybe spend time encouraging that time away is not to be met with chaos when you come back and chaos before. How can you build support around that role and that person so they feel good leaving? And it's not always going to be the case because like life in business is busy, but I think if you can demonstrate that that's important to you and it's important to them, hopefully it leads to a better team and people and engagement.
Oh my gosh. Beautifully said. Like that is the definition of a non-toxic leader,
Yeah.
is what you just defined right there. Like people need to run
Uh-huh.
to leaders and managers like you
Uh-huh.
because it's so sad to think like some people feel
Mhm.
so scared when they won't take time
Yeah.
off. I have a client right now who will not take time off because the leadership like shames
Oh,
her for taking some time off. And I'm like, you need your brain to rest.
you
Like
do.
innovation happens on a rested brain. Like, um, that's phenomenal. I love that.
Thank you. I'm
Mhm.
working to be better. So I'm not saying I'm perfect. I identify
Yeah.
it. I know it's out there. But I think that's, speaking specifically to leaders, I think if you can give your people that opportunity, um, and also don't be afraid to coach them into taking time off around busy seasons. That's important
Yeah.
too. But anyway, thank you.
So to close, what would you say has been your breakthrough moment in your career? Like that one defining moment that really set everything off. And you may have already shared it, but just to kind of end it.
I would probably say it would be the opportunity to join the board that I sit on at the current moment, the New York Shipping Exchange. It has been such an honor, and I know that there will be a day that somebody will take my seat, and my time on that board will be over. But my gosh, the people that I have met has truly been such a gift, and I wouldn't have had it if I didn't work in an organization that said, "Yeah, you should." They saw the value in the time that I would spend away from the desk. And so I think that was my breakthrough moment was getting to sit in a room with people who are making really big decisions for our industry. And the CEO of the company is truly remarkable and has introduced me to people I could only imagine ever having an opportunity to sit beside. So um, I think that if I could dial all of that back and like marry it all together, my industry brand really became something when I was willing to put myself out there and get uncomfortable sitting on a board that I wasn't quite sure I believed I belonged on. And now having been through such exciting times with them, some very tumultuous ups and downs, but also in our own industry and being resilient through all of them. That was probably the moment where I could like pinpoint that things changed. So um that was my breakthrough moment.
Mm. Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. That seems so important, honestly, when you say it. I'm like, that is so cool. But cool like that's just great for you. And like to your point, just stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I feel like everything good has happened for you because you did go outside of your comfort zone. That's amazing.
Yeah. I think also you just said something that reminded me. I think that the one thing I think has helped me be pretty successful is that your mindset really matters, right?
Mm.
Goodness follows goodness. And so sometimes when we have bad days, bad quarters, whatever it is, I think it's really easy to lean into, oh my gosh, this is hard, or oh my gosh, I'm always so busy. But if you can flip that script a little bit and really lean into the idea that this is an opportunity, this problem creates opportunity for me. And so um, the mindset shifted for me when I got to be a part of this board in a bigger way because I thought, oh my gosh, this is good. And when you say this is good, more good comes and more good follows. And so, again, another thing that I'm not sure is written out for us anywhere or shared with us as people that like your mindset does matter. I think leaning into that has been really a big gift to me personally in the last couple of years.
April, it's been a joy. Thank you so much for just joining and just sharing authentically and your genuine story. Like, I feel like I got so much just hearing, your affirmations and your story. And I feel inspired. Like, I'm like, oh man, I need to get on that board. I'm still working on it. But when I do,
You will. You
I
will.
will keep you posted. Yes, yes. So I appreciate you sharing. Is there anything else you want to kind of leave end off or share before we end our time together?
I think what we just did and talked about is a really great example of connection. And you and I met because we were both willing to take an opportunity or a leap of faith in joining an organization that was just starting, the Thread. And it gave us an introduction. It introduced me to a very good friend. And so I think that was taking a chance and betting on yourself, and I think that those are words that, if we leave anything with anybody, it would be betting on yourself, because I think us meeting was us both taking a chance and investing in ourselves and growing, so that's where I would leave us.
I love it. Virtual hug.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching Landed Unscripted Career Stories. I hope you got a lot out of our conversation, just like I did. I learned so much. I'm thinking about my strategies and adjusting them and pivoting them based on the information I learned today. If you got a lot out of this, please share this information or even drop a comment down below on what you thought was best and what you got out of the information, or even share your insights. I think we can all learn from each other. If you're interested in becoming a guest on our show, please go to breakthroughcareercoach.com and apply to be a guest on the show. I'm always looking for unique stories that I could use. This podcast is here to continue to grow. So I love for you to subscribe to our channel because I will continue to interview and post videos weekly from here on out. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.